Advisory. Some episodes of the 1836 podcast are not intended for all audiences, due to details that might be considered disturbing. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. On episode 8 of the 1836 podcast, we visit with Ms. Sharon Faye Wallace, also known as Susie Hunt, who has been a resident of Marion County, Arkansas for over 74 years.
Well, my name is Sharon Faye Wallace, and I'm married to Hunt, but I go by Susie. I was born in 1949. I'm a 49er, October 14th. And my dad wanted to name me Susie, and Jean and Mom wanted to name me Sharon, so they named me Sharon and called me Susie. That's all I've been known by all my life. I was born at Gassville, but Mom was older, and back then women were dying when they was having childbirth. So my Aunt Natty had that big house down at Lethal Springs, and my sister and Mom went down there and stayed 2 weeks so they'd be close to the hospital. My dad was William Harvey Wallace. He went by Bill. And my mother was Flossie Mae Yoakum. She was a twin to Flora. I got 5 brothers and 1 sister. Oldest brother was Jim. James Homer was his name. And Joe Bill. And then oldest Grant, he went by OG. And then Carl Max, and he went by Mousy. And Ray Leon, and he just went by Leon. I graduated out of Yola Summit High School. First grade at Yola. I went 12 years. And then I took some courses at the college up there at Harrison. And graduated in 67. We didn't have electricity there where I live till I was 16 years old. And we had water from a cistern that it run off the house, had troughs on the edge of the house, and it ran down in the cistern and went through a filter of some kind. And it filtered that and went down the cistern. That's where we got our drinking water, our water caught. And then when didn't have enough water, we'd go to the creek and fill up barrels of water to wash with. It took a 55-gallon barrel of water to do a washing. We washed once a week. Then we'd take baths in an old wash tub. We had a long wash tub, and Mom would fill it with water and set it behind the house and let the sun warm it. And we all took a bath in the same bathtub. When we did get electricity, well, Dad had a cousin that lived up in Missouri that was a well driller. Had one of them old hammer drills. And he come down and stayed a week at Mom and Dad's and drilled the well. And he hit water at 60 foot. Then he drilled 20 more, or 60 more. It's got 120 foot basement in it. And Mom said if she knowed he'd been that close, she'd been out there digging herself. To water. Then we got water in the house. Jim and Joe Bill put in the bathroom, and Daddy said he wasn't going to use the bathroom in the house. But he did. They learned to use it. But anyway, we used to get our lessons by Corlaur lamp. And then Mom got this old Aladdin lamp. Boy, it really put out the light. Had the mantles in it. But she would set up, we had quilting frames in the living room there and hanging from the ceiling. And she'd set up at night with that old kerosene lamp and quilt. And she made each one of the kids 7 quilts, and I've still got mine. Oh, we had good food to eat, but every meal we had a glass of milk set to drink, because we had a milk cow, and but we'd have a glass of milk to drink every morning, biscuits and gravy and red-eye gravy, and my dad liked brown sugar and cream. That was, and he liked thickened tomatoes. But yeah, Mom, and you could almost count on her having a pot of beans on an old wood cook stove. Every day we had a pot of beans, cornbread. But she'd cook enough at noon for dinner to have enough for supper. But we had 3 meals a day, breakfast and dinner and supper. But she cooked on that old wood stove, and she'd make a big garden. When always have some kind of horse around, but he had to be plow horse. Yeah, Daddy always had a pickup of some kind. He traded, went through the country buying livestock. He had all this kids, each one of the kids, to drive him. He didn't drive. He could. He had license, but he didn't drive. He went through all his kids and then started in the grandkids, Pete and Dorothy. Yeah, we all drove him to buy cattle. When his brother come back from service, he built a sale barn up at Gainesville, Ray Wallace, and he run a sale barn up there, and then they found a need for one in Mountain Home, so we built that Mountain Home sale barn. And he'd have a sale every Tuesday night. And Daddy would go back out in the country and buy cattle, and then take it over there to sell it, and he'd give him a commission on what he'd bring to sell. And all of us kids worked there, Leon and Pete and Ron and Dorothy and me and Dorothy and Bo and Bon. They was having a special sale one night over there, and we all worked in the restaurants, and Mom made us little sack dresses. All my dresses growing up come from feed sacks. Back there where Dorothy couldn't hardly see over the counter, she was waiting tables counter on the counter. But we all rode over in an old pickup, and cattle in the back, and Leon, Ron, Pete, me and Dorothy, and Daddy, and usually Bon or Bo was all in that truck, cab of that truck. Sometimes the sale would last all night, and we'd come home and then have to go to school that morning. We used, for entertainment, we'd get these old tin cans and mash them on our feet and walk, make noise, walk down the road with them tin cans on. Jim and Jean, they had been married like 10 years and they didn't have any kids. But whenever they moved from when the lake went in, Mom had inherited her part of the place that my grandpa had homesteaded on White River, and they had to sell it, and they bought that place over on the creek. And it had a great big 2-story house, and then another house across the road. Bought it off of D. Copeland. He had a bunch of kids, and they moved up the road in a little bitty house with all them kids. But anyway, there was Jim and Jean. They lived in the upstairs, and Mom and Dad and Max and Johnny Mae and Leon and me, we were all downstairs in that big 2-story house. And then Mom got homesick to go back to Peel. Well, they couldn't because they didn't have no place to go, and he bought that place where I live now for her. Then OG and Virgie lived in the house. Well, I think first they lived over here at Criminals Creek, and then they moved in that house maybe. But anyway, Mom and Dad and John and Max and Leon and I all moved back where I live now. But Jim and Jean stayed there, and I stayed with them till I was about 8 years old, and then Jackie was born. First time I ever went was with Joe Bill and Ruby and the kids, Ron and Bo and Ron, but the others wasn't born yet. Donnie and Mark and Jody, they weren't born yet. But yeah, it was down there at Yellville, and I went with them, and it was Francis the Talking Mule. Oh, we liked that rock and roll stuff back then. Beatles and Elvis, and they didn't have girls basketball when I was in Yellville. You know, they started it after I graduated. Well, they had it before, and then they outlawed it, and then they started it back up, I think, maybe a couple of years after I graduated when they started basketball back at Yellville. Oh, no, I just heard about it. Now, I don't know, somebody said they had one at the School of Ozark in the museum. I don't know whether they do or not. There's so many stories about it. But, you know, they hadn't found that mine where they mined that silver, and I bet you anything it's underwater. Now, Joe Bill would have come more knowing than anybody. He knowed way back, all them bottoms, cane bottom, and well, they covered up a lot of farmland, but you know, it always got flooded. You know, it always flooded. Well, I remember Mom talking about the bushwhacker. I remember her talking about them. And first train that she was 6 years old when down here at George's Creek, first train they ever seen. My great-grandpa Pace and McCracken both are buried over there at Fairview Cemetery. They were in the war. We'd get an apple, orange, and a brown sack. We'd have an old cedar tree or a pine one and decorate it with whatever we had. Mom would cut out paper dolls somehow to make them all stay together, and angels on the tree, and then popcorn. We'd put popcorn, and she'd make popcorn balls. And my dad, he didn't want to make it wasting the molasses on popcorn balls. We never really went to no doctors growing up. Mom would fix up equal parts of lemon juice, whiskey, and honey. And that was our cough syrup. Well, my dad, he had a hot toddy every morning. And he liked that peach brandy. And I've still got a bottle sitting on the refrigerator. My mom dipped snuff, and I got her snuff glass sitting on top of the refrigerator. But me and Mom got into her snuff one time. We thought it tastes like cocoa, you know, because we like sugar and cocoa mixed together. We mixed some that snuff and sugar. Oh my! It didn't taste nothing like cocoa and sugar. Well, we used to haul hay over on the creek, and of course Joe Bill and not Joe Bill, OG and Leon and Jim and all farmed that Crooked Creek over there, and of course we all had to be there, whether we was needed or not. We had to be there to work. I remember me and Dorothy would double up on a bale of hay and put it on the truck, and OG would stack it, and Virgie would be driving. She'd about throw him off the truck, burn up the clutches on it. She would. Boy, that clutch would be smoking. But anyway, Daddy'd set up, there'd be one tree, and he'd sit out there and boss everybody around. He'd tell, they'd take a load to one place over OG's, one place at our house, and one place at Jim's, and, you know, dividing it up. But anyway, and I had that in corn one year, and we had to hold that whole field in corn. And That's when we'd find arrowheads. Mm-hmm. Yeah, back then. I didn't know corn from Johnson grass. Ain't no telling how many. I didn't. But Daddy would have a lard can that you put around your neck and had a hole in it and put fertilizer, and you walk down that fertilizing that all the way to the end of the row. Well, that's where I learned to drive on a 8-in Ford tractor in the cornfield. We had no wagon on the back of it, and you put that old tractor in granny gear and went down them rows, and there'd be somebody on one side, on each side, and one down the middle. Oh. Yeah, picking up corn. And that's my first experience of driving a tractor. Just had to steer it down that row, keep it in a row, gathering corn. 4th of July was the time we'd go picnic. Mom would throw a fit every 4th of July, didn't want him to go. And me and Dorothy, we'd be trying to decide all week what we was going to wear. OG and Virgie and Joe Bill and Ruby, they like to go down to the community building, Summit there. And they'd have square dances down there. Well, the kids wasn't allowed, and they all stayed there at Mom and Dad's. And we'd have that old battery radio, and boy, good fast music would come on, or all us kids was having our own little dance there at the house. Grand Ole Opry. Them batteries was about 2 foot long. Yeah, we'd have to save that battery for the Grand Ole Opry. No, we'd go to town, we might get a quarter and get back home. They won't know how much money we got back with. Won't teach us to save money, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, working over there in the field, he'd have to have the whole family there, whether they was dead or not. But it was to teach us, now then I look back, teach us to get along and work together. And we did. Mm-hmm. We did. We all got along back then. I mean, Mom said, I don't worry about my kids getting along, it's these in-laws. But anyway, we did have a good family then, and well known, as far as I know. The Wallaces was well known. But then we got some of these grandkids, great grandkids, that kind of ruined the reputation a little bit. Really, you know, but 74, or I will be in October. Mm-hmm. Well, back then, I was so bashful. Anybody drive up past the house, we'd go hide. Really? We didn't know who it was. But there wasn't much traffic back then. But usually, they was coming, somebody's coming, they was coming to see you. You peep out the window, see. If I had it to do over again, I wish I'd had joined the service of some kind, really. All they wanted you to do then was get married and have kids. But I wish I could have traveled more. Jack Pace was the sheriff, our first sheriff I remember, and he was the first cousin to Mom. And then Gus McCracken was something in office. He was kin to Mom. Well, Jack Pace, when he got voted out, he wouldn't leave. We heard.
He's bad as Trump, huh?
I guess, yeah.
Maybe I step on somebody's toes. Hey, boy.
He didn't want. That's what I've heard. Now I don't know.
He didn't want to move over, did he?
He didn't want to leave, but now, who knows? But now politics used to be really something.
Oh, yeah.
Because election night, everybody joined. They'd go down to the courthouse and wait. It was a big deal. Election night. One thing that people don't have discipline of kids. People has grown up not being taught control, and it's just been out of control.
Thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this episode of the 1836 podcast. We hope you found it informative and engaging. Please like, share, rate, and review. Leaving a good rating and review on your preferred podcast platform would also help us reach a wider audience. Be sure to tune in next time for another episode, as we continue to explore and uncover the roots and branches of Arkansas and the fascinating history of the Ozarks.